Hey, this is Chris, keeping it real, facts over fear. I want to talk about a zero-sum game. And of course, it has to have something to do with COVID-19, doesn't it? Yes, it does. What do I mean when I say it's been a zero-sum game up to now? What I'm really saying is that from March of 2020 till right now, the end of January 2021, it really didn't matter what the government did or didn't do. It didn't matter that they locked everything down. It didn't matter if they didn't lock everything down. It didn't matter if they closed all the restaurants or if they didn't close all the restaurants. We would have approximately the same number of cases, hospitalizations, and deaths cumulatively from then to now as we have now. And the reason I say that is because I don't have like a concrete scientific reason. I'm not going to say this is scientific data, but looking at the data as I have been for all these months, I realized that if the restrictions had not been put in place in the first place, that the numbers over the summer would have been higher, but not terribly higher, because we see that other countries who did not put a lot of restrictions in place, such as Sweden, experienced the same kind of statistics that we did. In fact, the entire world did, and everybody was saying, well, it doesn't really matter what governments do, and that's right. And then, of course, when their cases spiked, everybody said, well, they were wrong. But then again, you know, in North Carolina, most of the restrictions were still there, and the cases spiked anyway. So what does that really tell us? What it really tells us is everything the government did was completely secondary to what people were willing to accept, how people dealt with this pandemic, what were people's feelings back in March, what were they on, say, on July 4th, what were they on Labor Day, what were they on Thanksgiving, what were they on Christmas. And what we've seen is an increasingly, I don't want to say laissez-faire attitude about this pandemic, but there is a limit, I think, to how long people are willing to be scared. Like back in March, I think everybody was pretty much scared. I don't think the governor needed to do anything. I think everybody pretty much understood, you know, with a 6 or 7% case fatality ratio, that everybody knew this was pretty serious. And so I think most people would have done what most people were forced to do. They would have just done it anyway. And as we see, as the restrictions were lifted, and we all thought we were managing this so well, but the people didn't respond really to the mandates from the government. They were still working things out in their heads. I was still working things out in my head. It really wasn't until the end of summer where I just kind of thought, you know what, I'm really not too concerned about this. I mean, you know, this has been going on, like say in September. This has been going on for 4 or 5 months. Still don't know anybody who's been sick. You know, I need to work, I need to make money, we need to eat, I need to be able to pay my bills, blah, 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 you know, all the typical things. And, you know, the thing about the human beings, the great thing about the human mind, well, sometimes it's a great thing and sometimes it's annoying, but, you know, we can adapt to anything, any situation we can adapt to mentally. But, and just, even the most horrific things, people were able to mentally adapt somehow, some way. And this has been a pretty serious thing, but although it's not an existential threat of any kind, it's still a serious thing. It's something that, you know, our culture has not seen, you know, since 1918. And so, of course, all those people are probably dead by now, so there's nobody really to say, hey, here's how it was back then. All we have is, we have news and we have reporting and we have pictures, but it really doesn't convey, you know, 50 million people dead. I mean, unless you knew somebody who went through it and knew 20, 30, 40 people who died, it really doesn't mean anything. So this is, for all intents and purposes, this is a brand new phenomenon, and yet we've seen it, you know, at about the 8-month mark, you know, when cases really started climbing everywhere in the United States and in North Carolina. We saw there was this, I don't think it's really fatigue. I think it's just a matter of, okay, there is a new reality, and I'm finally ready to deal with it. I had a response back in March, but now I've got a different response here in September. And then I've got an even I've got an even different response here at Thanksgiving, and by Christmas it's like, okay, fine, it's just the way it is. And I think the general consensus of the population is this is the way it is now, and I'm just simply not going to allow this thing to control me. And I think that's exactly what people have expressed, and it has become. I mean, it has wound up being the fuel for the numbers that we've seen up until about 2 weeks ago. Now the numbers are on their way down. All the numbers are in the right direction. But I think so. To just kind of sum it up, it really didn't matter what. If the government had done nothing, we would have had some more cases, hospitalizations, fatalities over the summer, probably more in the early parts of the autumn, and it probably would have ameliorated quite a bit, the really big peaks we saw in the first part of January, when we had 10,000 reported cases a day, 2 days in a row. And when the 14-day rolling average went up to $8,000 people and stayed there for like a week. And now it's only now starting to come down. So that's what I mean. It's a zero-sum game. So everybody out there, I think, who thinks that the government intervention has really accomplished anything, no, I don't agree. I don't think it's done any meaningful good. And I think all it's really done is, on top of all the cases, hospitalizations, and deaths, it's destroyed thousands of businesses. It's robbed hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people of their livelihood. It has made the economy a wreck. And I don't think anybody in government ever stopped and said, you know what, maybe we should think about a holistic approach to this. No, they didn't. It's just like, well, we have one thing. That this is all that matters. It never was all that mattered. But everybody got kind of laser focused, and I think now's the time to just say, hey, no more restrictions. Let's just get rid of everything. Let's get back to real life and just deal with the fact that there is a virus out there, and it's going to do what a virus does. And the people who need a vaccine and want a vaccine can get a vaccine, and if they feel good about that, then more power to them, because it's available now, so you can go get it. If you want to make a decision, you're going to quarantine yourself until you can get the vaccine, more power to you. I hope you do. But I don't think it's we're no longer in a place where we need to be scared to death of everything. And we're no longer in a place where we need to mandate things that don't do any good. All right. I think that came out pretty well. I think I said everything I wanted to say. All right, you have any questions or comments, leave them in the section below. Like and subscribe. We appreciate when you do. We will see you on the next zero-sum video.